It really feels like Helena's like almost overworking herself doing this, because maybe it is her therapy in that sense.
It is worth noting that Helaena is not a dreamer in George R.R. Martin's sourcebook Fire and Blood. The show created this dimension of her character, and it is one of the most significant additions, because it transforms Helaena from a quiet, sad queen into something far more haunting, a prophet who was right every single time, surrounded by people who never once paid attention. I went back and rewatched every scene that Helaena Targaryen appears in, from the moment she first spoke on screen to the final episode she was alive in, and I came away genuinely unsettled. Not because of the tragedy, not because of the grief, but because of something far more specific. She told everyone exactly what was going to happen. Every time. And every single person around her, her mother, her husband, her brothers, heard the words, dismissed them, and walked straight into the disaster she had already described. I have spent a lot of time with this show, and I can say with complete confidence that Helaena Targaryen is one of the most carefully constructed characters in House of the Dragon, not because of her tragedy, but because of what she knew, and how she knew it, and why, despite knowing everything, she could not save a single person she loved. By House of the Dragon Season 3, Helena's dreaming has evolved into something more complex. Episode 7, the penultimate episode of the season, gives us the fullest and most detailed look inside Helena's visions that the show has provided. And what we find is not a single fixed future, but something more disturbing. A set of branching possibilities, each one showing what might happen depending on the choices she makes. The first dream, a gray mare in a cart, gates open, sunlight on her face, an escape. A way out of the Red Keep that, in reality, does not exist. The gates are closed to her and no horse is waiting. This is not a literal future, but a symbolic one, showing her what escape would look like if she could choose it. The second dream, a birth and a soldier who immediately takes the child away. Helaena is pregnant in Season 3. If the child is a boy, another prince, Rhaenyra will have no choice but to capture or kill him. The dream appears to confirm she is carrying a son, the third dream, Helaena on Dreamfire, ordering the dragon to burn an approaching crowd. This is a version of herself she has explicitly said she does not want to become. Rhaenyra, growing more desperate as the war continues, has been trying to use Helena's gift, either as a dreamer or a dragon rider, for the Black faction's advantage. This dream shows Helaena what she would have to become if she chose to fight, a woman who burns people. She rejects it, the fourth dream, the gray mare again, untethered in a peaceful cottage yard. Helaena and her twins, Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, both alive, feeding chickens, a life of quiet. And then the sky darkens, snow falls, and something cold arrives from the distance. The idol is temporary. Even in the dream of peace, the long night is coming. As Screen Rant noted, Helena's dreams don't take a literal look at the future precisely as it will play out. Rather, it appears that, at least in House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 7, she is seeing a variety of futures branched off from her current predicament. This is the most nuanced we have seen dragon dreaming depicted in either show. Not a simple flash of what will happen, but a map of what could. The most famous dragon dreamer in Targaryen history is Daenys Targaryen, known across Westeros as Daenys the Dreamer. She lived in Old Valyria itself, and approximately 12 years before the catastrophic event known as the Doom of Valyria, she dreamed of it. She saw the destruction of the greatest empire in the known world, the fire, the collapse, the annihilation of every Dragonlord family, and she told her father, Aenar Targaryen. He believed her. He moved the family, their wealth, and their dragons to Dragonstone. When the Doom came and obliterated Valyria, House Targaryen survived, the only major Dragonlord family to do so, entirely because one girl had a dream and one father chose to listen. Without Daenys the Dreamer, there is no Targaryen dynasty. There is no Aegon's Conquest. There is no Iron Throne. There is no House of the Dragon and no Game of Thrones. The entire history of Westeros that both shows depict exists because a dreamer was believed. Generations later, Aegon the Conqueror himself had a prophetic vision, the dream he called A Song of Ice and Fire, in which he saw a great winter coming to destroy all of humanity, and a Targaryen on the Iron Throne as the only thing standing between the living and the darkness. That dream is what drove him to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. Not ambition, not power, a vision, the heartbreaking limit of the gift. Seeing without being able to change here is the thing that makes Helaena's story genuinely tragic rather than simply sad. She was not passive. She tried to warn people. She told Alicent about the beast beneath the boards twice in different ways. She told Aegon she was afraid of rats. She told Aemond where and how he would die. She described the coming civil war in the language of looms and spools at a public funeral. She was not hiding her visions. She was sharing them constantly. Problem is that dragon dreams do not arrive as plain statements. They arrive as symbols, images, half-formed impressions. When Helaena says beast beneath the boards, she is not being deliberately cryptic. She is describing what she saw as accurately as she is able to. The problem is that the people around her interpret the language literally and dismiss it, when the literal interpretation is also true. When she says she is afraid of rats, she means it both metaphorically and precisely. But Aegon only hears his odd wife being anxious, not a warning about a specific man in the tunnels beneath their home. CBR writer Katrina Yang put it well. No one remembered or even seemed to notice that she had prophetic abilities. Aegon II and Helaena got married and had children. It'd be natural for Aegon II to notice his wife is a dreamer. But Season 2 only proved that he still saw her as the odd and awkward sister who'd mumble nonsense and riddles to insects. Similarly, her mother, Alicent, also doesn't seem to have picked up on her daughter's special ability even though they were close to each other. And CBR also observed, if given the right attention, Helaena would be a powerful asset to Team Green since no one on Team Black has prophetic abilities. Sadly, her talent goes on being unnoticed and wasted. The person who could have changed the outcome of a war was dismissed as eccentric. The queen who knew what was coming was patted on the hand and told the dragons would protect them. Dragon dreams can also destroy. The danger of the gift there is another dimension to this that the show handles carefully. Dragon dreams are not uniformly positive. They are not simply a superpower that, if properly utilized, would have saved everyone. The history of Westeros is full of dreamers who were destroyed by their visions. King Viserys I Targaryen had a dream that his son would sit on the Iron Throne wearing Aegon the Conqueror's crown. He interpreted this on his deathbed as a message about Aegon II, his son with Alicent, rather than the prophecy about Aegon the Conqueror's dream of the long night. He told Alicent this. Alicent misunderstood which Aegon he meant. The entire usurpation of Rhaenyra's throne, the spark that lit the dance of the dragons, grew from a dying king's misinterpreted dragon dream and a daughter's fatal misreading of it. Earlier in the dynasty, Daemon II Blackfyre had dragon dreams that convinced him a dragon would rise again. This drove him into the Second Blackfyre Rebellion, a war built on a misread vision that led to unnecessary death. And as CBR noted, sometimes their visions make them consumed by a belief that simply isn't true, like when Aeron Targaryen drank wildfire to transform himself into a dragon, the prince who took his dragon dream as a literal statement of identity, and died for it in 232 AC. Helaena is not in that category. Her dreams are accurate, not delusional. But the show is careful to show that dragon dreaming carries psychological cost. Seeing things you cannot prevent, warning people who do not listen, and living with the knowledge of what is coming is not a gift in any conventional sense. It is a weight. And Helaena carries it in a body that is also living through grief, forced marriage, political captivity, and eventually the murder of her child, Helena's fate. What Fire and Blood records and what the show is. Building toward this is where Season 3's build-up becomes deeply significant. According to George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, the historical account of the Dance of the Dragons, Helaena Targaryen dies by suicide. The book records that she threw herself from a window onto the spikes of the dragon skulls that line the base of the Red Keep. After the death of Jaehaerys, Helaena descended into what the account calls a worsening madness. She became unable to care for herself, unable to look after her surviving children, unable to function. The book's account also records that the small folk of King's Landing blamed Rhaenyra for Helena's death, believing that Rhaenyra had ordered her thrown from the tower. This belief, true or not, was one of the catalysts for the riots against Rhaenyra that contributed to the collapse of her hold on King's Landing. A woman whose death was not even political in origin ended up reshaping the politics of the entire war. In death, Helaena became as consequential as any dragon. The Season 3, Episode 7 dreams point in this direction. The Grey Mare, the symbol of escape, appears in the dream where Jaehaerys is alive and the cottage is peaceful. In the context of what Fire and Blood tells us, this reads as a vision of death itself as the escape. Screen Rant noted, the fact that Jaehaerys is alive at that lovely cottage seems to confirm that it is death that will bring Helaena to that destination. Helaena may be dreaming of the afterlife, or of the only peace the Dance of the Dragons will ever allow her. Either way, the show is building toward an ending that the books have already recorded. Why no one listened? The structural tragedy there is a structural reason why every character around Helaena failed to take her seriously, and it goes beyond individual blindness or arrogance. House of the Dragon is fundamentally a story about people who are so consumed by their own desires, their own ambitions, and their own version of events that they cannot process information that arrives in an unexpected form. Every character in this show has a narrative they are living inside. Alicent's narrative about duty and legitimate succession, Aegon's narrative about being a reluctant king, Aemon's narrative about power and proving himself, Rhaenyra's narrative about justice and rightful inheritance. Helaena does not fit any of those narratives. She is quiet, gentle, interested in insects, speaks obliquely, and makes statements that sound absurd until they come true. To the people around her, she registers as odd, Aegon's word, used repeatedly. And that label, odd, is exactly the box they put her in and leave her in forever. Odd is the diagnosis that makes you stop listening, and once you stop listening, every warning sounds like noise. This is also why the show's decision to make Helaena a dreamer is such a powerful creative choice. In a story full of people who think they know what is happening, Helaena actually does know. And the contrast between her knowledge and their certainty is what makes the tragedy land as hard as it does. Aegon was confident that dragons would protect them. Helaena was afraid of rats. Aegon was wrong. Helaena was right. And nothing that followed could be undone. The dreamer who could not change the dreamy went looking for an explanation of how Helaena could see the future. And what I found was something more uncomfortable. Seeing the future is not the same as being able to change it. The Targaryens have had dragon dreamers in their line since before they left Valyria. Dany saved the family because her father listened. Aegon the Conqueror built an empire because he acted on his dream. Daemon II Blackfyre triggered a rebellion because he misread his. King Viserys I sparked a civil war because his dying words were misunderstood. And Helaena Targaryen described every catastrophe that was coming, the loss of the eye, the coming war, the beast in the walls, the rats, and was ignored every single time. The gift itself did not fail her. The gift was working precisely as designed. It showed her what was true. What failed her was the world she lived in and the people around her who decided that a quiet woman who talked to insects was not worth listening to. Showrunner Ryan Condal said Helaena was tuned into a frequency that not all the other characters in the show are. That frequency was correct. Every signal she sent was accurate, but nobody had the receiver turned on. In House of the Dragon Season 3, as Fia Sabin's final episodes air and Helaena's story approaches the ending that Fire and Blood has already written for her, the question is not whether the show can match the tragedy of the source material. The question is whether anyone on screen, in that world, in that war, will understand, even at the end, what they had in her. A dreamer, a prophet. A woman who saw everything coming and spent her entire life telling people who never once believed her. The heartbreaking answer, written into the history of Westeros, is no. They never did. What Helaena saw about Aemond, death at the God's Eye in Season 2, Helena's visions become more explicit and more direct. In a confrontation on a balcony of the Red Keep, she faces Aemond, her brother who has become the most dangerous military force on Team Green and one of the most feared people in Westeros. Aemond tries to convince Helaena to ride her dragon Dreamfire in service of the war effort. Helaena refuses, and then she tells him what she has seen: Aegon will be king again. He's yet to see victory. He sits on a wooden throne. And you'll be dead. You are swallowed up in the God's Eye, and you are never seen again. Aemond threatens her. Helaena does not flinch. She tells him it would not change anything. The prophecy is already fixed. George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood confirms